Good afternoon slash early evening here from New York City. You are watching the Mayday Network. This is the Daily Dispatch, and I am Michelle Kinney. Thank you all so much for joining us or me on this wonderful Sunday. This is some great news, everybody. If you have not seen yet, Viktor Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, has lost. He has lost his election, and not just by a little bit. He has lost by a lot. And he has conceded publicly, in addition to calling Peter Najar and conceding to him over the phone. This is such a huge day. I could not be more happy for the people of Hungary, for the people of Europe, because Viktor Orban has been standing in the way of so many things that the European Union has been trying to do. This is a huge victory and a great day for liberal democracy. I have been following the returns today. I just want to give a shout out to this new channel that I just found today, Europe Made Simple. I don't know if any of you follow them. There seem to be two guys in Europe. They've been talking through everything. I've actually learned so much from them today. It's called Europe Made Simple. And I found them. Go follow them, subscribe. Really great, information coming out of Europe, and obviously they're no fan of Trump. So it was really refreshing to hear from them. So I actually was able to follow along with them. It was great. From what I learned from them, 133 seats was the threshold to get the supermajority. So the TISA party, which is led by Peter Najar, who is the opposition, will essentially, now I believe it's around, last time I checked, around 90% of all the votes are in. I believe they're still waiting for some of the votes in the cities, from what they said. And but as it looks now, I think it was at 138, which is just like crazy. And from what I also understand is that Viktor Orban had set up a lot of traps for anyone who was to come into power, essentially, if he was to lose. And you wouldn't be able to get anything done unless you had 2/3, a supermajority, essentially. And that is what has happened here. Peter Najar, who is the opposition leader, the winner in this election, his party, TISA, is a former ally of Viktor Orban, which is also interesting. He's center-right. But listen, we'll take center-right over a dictator. We'll take center-right over an authoritarian. If you guys, don't know or weren't watching over the last number of years, Viktor Orban really has been the playbook for the Trump administration. He, very slowly but surely took over all of the media, about 90% of the media in Hungary. He's taken over, all kinds of institutions, making it pretty impossible to lose power, his grip on power. And he has been in power for 16 years. I think here in the United States, we can kind of understand what's like the weight of 16 years of having someone in your life and controlling, your way of life for that amount of time. Donald Trump has been, has been in the in our world, let's say, the political world for 10 years. And one of the things, so when Viktor Orban publicly conceded, he did say that we don't give up, and signaled that he would be leading the opposition into the future in the next several years. So he's not going anywhere, similarly to how kind of Trump was, is my guess. And not only did Orban serve as, the playbook for Trump and, his authoritarian movement, but I would say the entire Republican Party. I mean, they held a CPAC in Budapest. They invited Viktor Orban to a CPAC in Texas, and everybody, cheered for Viktor Orban. And the thing is, like, you look at the guy and you're just like, really, like all these guys. I said this on the last couple of shows we've done. I'm like, I am so sick and tired of these pasty ass goober, like, ugh, these. I'm like, how are these the strong men? Like, how? They're just detestable, repulsive men. Um, but here's the great thing is that he's out. He's out. And this supermajority is going to allow the Hungarian people to actually, and actually undo the damage that Viktor Orban has done to their lives. And from what I also understand, listening to these guys on Europe Made Simple, so knowledgeable. So like seriously, go follow them. I'm going to send them a note and see if we can't get them on the show. Um, there was some like major issues with the voters, and that was healthcare. Um, there was a story about a 70-something-year-old man who had gone in for a checkup. He hadn't been in years and was told by, this regulated healthcare under Orban, no, you don't need this. Come back in another year's time, and like things like that are happening. And the healthcare in Hungary is terrible to say the least. Also, the pension situation there is really bad. Um, and corruption, which also here in the United States, if you're an American watching this, we can understand this too. It is the same flavor of corruption that Donald Trump uh, is. I don't even know what it participates doesn't seem like a big enough word. Um, it's the oligarchy. It's making yourself rich, your friends rich, while also taking from all of your people and making sure that the infrastructure of your country crumbles. So let me throw this banner up here in case anybody is coming in to the chat. Thank you everyone for being here. I tried to grab Julie. I don't know where she is. I think she must be busy today. She's obviously more of the foreign policy expert, more so than I am. But this has been really, really interesting and really just invigorating to follow. Not only today, but in the weeks leading up to today. I mean, there have been massive, massive demonstrations in Hungary. A lot of young people. There was a music concert just the other night. There was a member of the military who spoke. There was chants of like, get Russia out. And listen, this Viktor Orban, huge ally or useful idiot, however you look at it, of Vladimir Putin. And one of the things that Viktor Orban had been trying to do, um, is bashing Ukraine, blaming Ukraine for all of Hungary's problems, which is insane, and also creating, total lies and myths about Ukraine, trying to, tell the Hungarian people, that Ukraine's going to come get them and all of your money is going to Ukraine. And like, I mean, it's just total bullshit. So then JD Vance, as we all saw this past week, got in his little tax funded plane that we're all paying for to go over to Budapest and to campaign for Viktor Orban. I mean, please tell me in the chat if there's ever been another time when the United States or the vice president or president of the United States has gone overseas to campaign for an authoritarian. This certainly would be a first. Excuse me. And, in one of the rallies, he tried to call Trump on the phone and he didn't pick up. And there was a poll that came out, in the couple days after JD Vance left Hungary that showed, and I saw them online, and the guys actually that I was just watching had mentioned it too. So I was like, okay, they saw it too. That he had lost some support. It was like, a little bit of support with JD Vance even being there. I was like, the kiss of death. The kiss of death. I mean, it's just, if this isn't telling Trump, I mean, I wonder how Trump is going to react to this. I haven't checked Truth Social. I have not checked yet. Actually, let me look over there right now. Let's look together. Truth Social, Donald Trump. See if he's written anything yet. And of course, it's like some scammy website. So like any of like the blockers I have set up on my computer are always like, "Are you sure you want to go here?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." So nothing since 4 hours ago, where he is threatening any country going through the Strait of Hormuz, which is, that we're going to take that over, and all of this. JD Vance also was in charge of all of the negotiations and peace deal negotiations, in addition to Jared, uh, and that all has gone to shit too. It's like things are great. Everything's going great. And last night, while all this is going on with Iran and everything else, Donald Trump, his daughter, uh, members of the administration, Marco Rubio and others, were all at a UFC fight, shaking hands with, Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan was there last night too. So next time Joe Rogan tries to be like, "Oh, Trump," but like everything about him is bullshit. Everything about him is bullshit. He's doing this, finger in the wind, trying to see which way the wind is going. And just total fraud, all these people. Excuse me. Anyways, here's some more headlines here. I just want to go through this. Orban sets traps. Oh, so this is what I was talking about, the setting of the traps. He sets traps for his successor to prevent them from governing Hungary. This was from April 3rd, so a couple weeks ago. It says, even if opposition frontrunner Peter Magyar wins Hungary's election this month, which he just did, he will face a grueling ordeal in trying to run the country effectively, thanks to a complex legal and political minefield laid by Prime Minister Viktor Orban. During his 16 years in power, Orban has secured tight control over critical public institutions. This means that loyalists of the current prime minister will still have decisive powers to obstruct Magyar's budget plans and overturn legislation through a politicized constitutional court. I'm sure we all can understand that and how that happens. Let's see, going on here. Let's see, did I have another page of this? I thought I did. Maybe I don't. Whoops. My bad. Well, it goes on to talk about, that Magyar would need 2/3, and that is what has happened. And if you're just joining us, I had learned that 133 was the magic number for that supermajority, and they had gone well above that. I believe it was at 138 the last time I looked before I came online. But yeah, here's Deutsche Welle. It's a publication out of Germany. It's actually really great reporting out of Europe. If you are looking for somewhere to read, they have lots of stuff in English. Definitely go over and check it out. JD Vance ribs Zelensky and Ukraine for Orban and Hungary, which again, JD Vance. I mean, all of these guys are puppets for Vladimir Putin and Russia, who is trying to put back together the Soviet Union. I actually saw some of the comments. It was actually really great. It was like, Hungary is saying yes to the European Union and no to the Soviet Union. This is just fantastic. So anyway, so what did Vance say about the war in Ukraine, Europe, and Zelensky? I mean, it's his usual sort of like, just kind of like smarmy, just holier than thou, like just the way that he speaks is so it's almost like he's laughing on the inside at you while he's speaking. And I'll just read some of this here. It says, Vance said the Trump administration had made significant progress in its efforts to broker a halt to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but conceded it had been the hardest war to solve. In some ways, we thought it would be the easiest, but it has been the hardest. He criticized European leaders while praising Orban, of course, arguably the NATO leader who has retained the closest ties to Moscow during the war, for their behavior amid the diplomatic impasse. We've been disappointed by a lot of political leadership in Europe because they don't seem particularly interested in solving this particular conflict. European governments, meanwhile, counter that while they want to bring the conflict to an end, it should be what they call just peace and not amount to enforced partial Ukrainian capitulation. I mean, that's the thing. His idea of Ukraine not being, amenable is, they're not willing to give up part of their country. They're not willing to capitulate. When you have been invaded by another authoritarian, murderous country that is genociding you and stealing hundreds of thousands of your children. Here it says Vance said he was optimistic that an end to the fighting could be brokered because fundamentally this war has stopped making sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, Russia leave. That's how you do this. Russia needs to leave. That's it. And however, he said, JD Vance, it takes two to tango. Again, blaming the Ukrainians for what is happening to them. JD Vance is the worst. And it seems as though, when JD Vance travels abroad, they don't like him either. And that's why, I think that a lot of people talk about, if something were to happen to Trump and JD Vance became president, he could be more dangerous. And I think in a lot of ways I agree with that, but in a lot of ways I don't. Because JD Vance cannot lead a cult of personality. He just can't. He is a completely unlikable person. He has no moral compass. He has no belief system. Like, he doesn't believe in anything. At least like Donald Trump believes in himself, like he has a goal and that's him. JD Vance has a goal and it's more Gollum-like, proximity to power sort of thing. But he's just a Frankenstein. He is a product of his investors, and those investors being Peter Thiel and anybody who has, put him together, from the, little doughboy from Appalachia, who a matter of 10 years ago said that Donald Trump was America's Hitler. So go figure. And whose best friend was a trans woman. Yeah, someone just said in the comments, remember when he got booed at the Olympics? Yes, I do. And maybe I'm being paranoid here, but I was watching on two different feeds. I had an American feed and then I was watching one from Europe. And you could hear in Europe more boos than I could in the American feed. I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining things, but it kind of seemed like that to moi. Orban has spent these final days and weeks just blaming Ukraine for all of his shortcomings, all of his failures as the leader of Hungary. And in his speeches, he had been saying basically that all of the problems of Hungary were not his fault, but everybody else's fault, and blaming everybody else and other countries, and nothing possibly, even though he controls all the levers of government, nothing could possibly be his fault. Doesn't that sound familiar? Now I've got my laptop over here. This has got some live. Here we go. This is Deutsche Welle, again out of Germany, with live updates. Hungary election, Orban concedes painful defeat to Magyar. Veteran Prime Minister Viktor Orban has acknowledged the landslide victory of Peter Magyar and his TISA party in Hungary's parliamentary election. And here is the latest. Let's see. Viktor Orban, who has been in office since 2010. Think about what you were doing in 2010. Who were you? What were you doing in your life? Because I hadn't even met my husband yet. That was a long time ago. That man has been in power that amount of time. That's crazy. Opposition party TISA could secure a 2/3 majority in parliament. Projections show. TISA is run by former Orban ally Peter Magyar, which is, interesting that the ally has then become the opposition. But again, we're seeing that with Trump world too. It's not so far-fetched. EU leaders, including Mirza Macron, hailed TISA's victory and pledged to work with Magyar. Here's a bunch of stuff in another language I can't read. Here's Emmanuel Macron congratulating the new prime minister. I don't know what you call them there, prime minister-elect or something. It looks like this is the translation, or at least part of it. France welcomes this victory as a triumph for democratic participation for the Hungarian people's commitment to the values of the European Union and for Hungary's place in Europe. Ursula von der Leyen, I'm going to murder her name, but I'll try to, what is the English here? Hungary has chosen, this is where I read it. Hungary has chosen Europe. Europe has always chosen Hungary. Together, we are stronger. A country reclaims its European path. The union grows stronger. So you're seeing a lot of celebration throughout Europe and European leaders. I mean, for obvious reasons, because that veto power, right, from Hungary has been a roadblock for, for the EU to get a lot of really important things done. And I think that there's a general consensus, right, that especially, I mean, Europe is like, we can no longer count on the United States. Like the United States is a rogue state now. We can't rely on them for anything. Who knows how long NATO is going to last? And in the meantime, we need to stick together, come together, and hopefully with with a new prime minister that's willing to work with the European Union and not put their foot on the brake and veto everything. They're able to maybe make some sort of reform for that veto power as well. So this is Orban admits painful defeat. This was, I don't know, maybe an hour ago. Let's see. Hungary's nationalist Prime Minister Viktor Orban conceded the parliamentary election to challenger Peter Magyar, saying the outcome of the Sunday vote was painful but unambiguous. Quote, I congratulated the winning party, Orban told his supporters. We are going to serve the Hungarian nation and our homeland from opposition as well. See, and that's where he is signaling to, and I believe that there was about 2.5 million people who voted for Orban. He was signaling to them, thank you, and we are not going to give up. We don't give up, and we're not going anywhere. And I'm gonna lead the opposition, essentially. Orban first served as Hungary's prime minister between 1998 and 2002 before suffering an election loss. He has managed to stage a comeback in 2010, which we were just talking about, hold on to power for 4 additional terms. So it has been 16 years. Since his return to office, Orban has cemented his status as a right-wing nationalist leader and an apparent ally of Russia's Vladimir Putin. U.S. President Donald Trump also endorsed Orban ahead of Sunday polls. Oh, wow. It's so weird that Donald Trump would support an authoritarian. Excuse me. So yeah, this was really exciting to watch and follow. Let's see. This is just about an hour ago as well, that the projections could put an eventual Magyar-led government within reach of a 2/3, which it had the last time I checked. We've seen the latest polls and the turnout. Based on the information we're getting, we are optimistic. And yeah, this is going to be a celebration of democracy. A smaller crowd came together outside the venue of the Fidesz election watch party. I had to look up the pronunciation of everything before it came Fidesz. A few kilometers further south, inside, don't know, Minister of Prime Minister's office gave a press conference in which he thanked voters for the high turnout, blah, blah, blah. And there was record turnout. There was record turnout. Cynthia in the chat is saying that Peter is about to speak. I would love to turn that over. Excuse me. It won't be in English, so I won't put the sound on. But let me try to do this here. Let's see. And please, in the chat, especially if you're outside the United States, let us know where you are watching from and where you have been watching the returns from, if you have. Let's see. Hungarian results. Let me try to get this up here. Okay. All right. Looks like there's a bunch of feeds here. It's hard to see which is which. This is live. Well, I'll throw this one on. I don't know what DWS News is. Let me just throw this up here for to get an idea. This is just some shots of the crowd. I'm going to take this down, see if I can't get a better feed from the stage. And again, this is not going to be in English, so will be harder for us to follow. But I mean, this is massive, massive. Okay, what is this? What is this feed here? Okay, here it is. Let me just throw this up here for a second. This looks right.
Nem szavaztak, és ilyen erős felhatalmazást még soha egyetlen párt sem kap. Ország történetében ennyien még soha nem szavaztak, és ilyen erős felhatalmazást még soha egyetlen párt sem kapott, mint a Tisza.
So that's Peter Magyar there speaking. This will be the new Prime Minister of Hungary. Again, this is not in English and there are no captions, so it will be difficult for us to follow along. So let me actually take that sound off. But this is just massive. This is just such a massive, massive win for the Hungarian people, again, for Europe, for anyone around the world who cares about liberal democracy. It makes you feel a little less alone, especially after what you've seen these people kind of go through in the last 16 years. And what this country's been through over many, many, many years. Oh, I just got a text from Julie. 1 second here. Let me see. Come on. She had fallen asleep. She was up very late writing her Substack, which you should all read, by the way. It's incredible. She worked very hard on it, and it's very personal. And if there's one thing you read today other than this news, go read Julie's Substack, Salty Politics. Looks like she'll be on here right here in just a moment. Let's see. And all right. Yeah, so it makes us feel a little bit less alone in the world because, you know, there are times, sometimes every day in the United States, it feels really hopeless. It feels hopeless when the fascist and authoritarian voices in the world just seem so loud, and they seem so widespread, and there just seems to be so many of them, right? And it's like, what hope can we have when there's so much hatred and there's so much intolerance in the world, and such an uprising of this far right nationalist, white nationalist movement, not just here, but around the world. When you see like the Nazi party essentially with a rebirth in Germany, for instance. I mean, look at that crowd. Look at that crowd. This is a country invigorated with hope. I was watching another channel of a creator in Europe who went to Budapest and was interviewing people just on the street. And this one woman said, she said, you know, we sometimes, we have a little hope before the elections. We have hope, but everything has been so, you know, there's been so much despair for so many years now. And she said, you know, I just want to live in a free country. I just want healthcare. I just want to be a happy person. That's all any of us want, right? I mean, it really is in so many ways so simple. And yes, I know it's a complicated road to get there, but it is really that simple. People just want to be free. And Familiar Bastion, can we add this to the competency porn? I've been seeing so much about this lately, the competency porn. I believe there was an article either in the Times or the Post about this, and then why people are watching The Pit for that same reason. And, you know, watching NASA and the Artemis in the last week too has just been really incredible to see what's possible in the world. And I see
Hello.
I see her.
Oh
Hello.
my God. I
Good
am
morning.
so sorry. You know, when you decide you're gonna like get in bed for a second to read something, and then next thing you know, it's hours later, and you're like, I just
No,
slept for
that's a good Sunday. That's a good Sunday.
Sunday. I was up till 5 a.m. So I am so sorry,
Yeah, I was
guys.
just telling everybody you were up till 5 writing your Substack and told
Yeah,
everybody to go read it.
thank you. Anyway, I wake up to find out that Viktor Orban did he concede?
Yes.
He did.
Yeah, publicly.
Well, there's a midnight train to Moscow. I'm sure it's probably leaving from Budapest right now that I would suggest that he get on.
Yeah.
Because this is, you guys, this is much more than just about Hungary. This is
Yep.
about, I mean, you probably were talking about this. I think this is kind of the beginning of the end of Trumpism and nationalism. Not, I don't want to overstate it, but I mean, look what's happening right now, right?
Yeah.
Orban just got his ass handed to him in a landslide.
Landslide.
The Republicans are going to get their asses handed to them in a landslide in November. I think you probably already covered all this, and I'm not saying anything original.
No, please, please. I mean, it's all this is so important.
Yeah, I mean, Putin is on his last legs militarily. He's on his last legs economically. He'll hang on because, you know, that's what the Russians, they don't know anything else. But
he survives, right?
Yeah, but for now. But this is about so much more than Hungary, because this guy has been the impediment in the European Union so much.
Yep. That's what I was saying. It's like that veto power that he's had with the EU, like blocking so much of the work and the things that they're trying to do. And like with him gone, this is going to free up like funds and, you know, who like maybe some more support for Ukraine. Because, you know, I was saying before you came on, like how Orban in the final days and weeks of his campaign was basically using Zelensky and Ukraine as a talking point and a point to blame for all of your problems are Zelensky's fault. All of your problems is because of Ukraine, because of course he's, you know, the useful idiot / ally of Vladimir Putin. And that's, you know, and what I hadn't mentioned either is that there was a story that came out that Russians had pitched to Orban about an assassination attempt to try to, you know, garner more support. I mean, it's crazy stuff.
So much. So they did that. The fact that JD Vance went over there to effectively put his finger on the scale. I don't like, we don't do that. We don't fly to other countries to campaign.
Certainly not for an authoritarian.
But that's what they're doing. And I do want to talk about, and I wrote about this, and I do want to talk about this, excuse me, because I think it's really relevant. So a lot of this ties back to Peter Thiel. I don't know if people realize this.
Yeah.
Because Peter Thiel, let's just refresh who Peter Thiel is. Peter Thiel is the German-born, South African-raised,
in a Nazi town.
In a Nazi town. Michelle loves talking about Peter Thiel because you know so much more about him. But founder of PayPal, who has spent years building an entire ecosystem of right-wing political influence that's stretched across campaigns, across institutions, across media. He was the first Silicon Valley prominent guy to break with everybody else there by backing Trump in 2016. Palantir, which he owns, has all of our information because the Republicans have turned all of our. Remember when Elon Musk did his little experiment where his weirdo 20-year-olds went in and got all of our information?
Right, the Doge, right?
Palantir's got it all.
It was a cyber attack.
He has invested tens of millions of dollars in candidates like Vance and less successfully Blake Masters, who ran in 2022 in Arizona. By the way, the best thing that ever happened to JD Vance was that Blake Masters lost, because it might be Blake Masters who's vice president now. He also worked for Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, but Peter Thiel.
And just so people know also, like, he gets apparently very angry if you bring up the fact that he was Peter Thiel's butler. This is like a pain point for him. So if you're ever doing something and you're near him, he doesn't like to hear that.
You're talking
Carry
about
on.
Blake Masters, right?
Blake Masters, yes. Continue.
Yeah. Okay, so, right. So after graduating from Yale Law School, I promise this has relevance to Budapest and what happened in Hungary today. Vance went to work at Thiel's venture firm, Mithril Capital. And, you know, it wasn't really so much a finance job. It was an apprenticeship and an outlook that is Peter Thiel's outlook. It blends skepticism of democracy with a desire to build parallel power structures outside traditional institutions. And so it was an apprenticeship to rule. And so when Vance decided to run for Senate in 2022, Thiel poured millions into super PACs supporting him, which is how Vance went from having no chance to suddenly being in the Senate.
And still, by the way, almost lost because he's so terribly unlikable.
Right. So had it not been for Thiel's money, Vance would have been on the speaking circuit. And I think what
we
Vance
have Senator Ryan.
Yeah, I think what Vance, was doing was running a Vance wrote Hillbilly Elegy, and I think basically he was recruited for this by Thiel, who was like, wait a second, this is how we get into the whole popular, like the whole thing was totally groomed start to finish.
Yep.
And also same thing, that year Thiel also funded master's race in Arizona, also spent $15 million trying and failing to get masters into the Senate. So
his ads were so out of control, like sinister bad. Ugh.
Yeah. But what I want to talk about is Thiel wasn't just investing in political candidates, though Vance is key to this whole enterprise that we're about to talk about that really stretches from Silicon Valley to Washington to Budapest and then Moscow. And now that critical link is broken now that Orban has lost. He was creating ecosystem, a donor and political network designed to move the Republican Party and the country further right. And that has a name. It has a name and it's called Rockbridge Network. And I don't know why nobody talks about Rockbridge.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, they should. Because if Thiel is its financier and Vance is its political vehicle, then its operator, the connective tissue, the guy who basically runs the whole thing, is a guy named Chris Buskirk, who's the co-founder of Rockbridge with Vance. And he's the one who runs the machine, the donor relationship, the media pipelines, the turnout operations. And Buskirk said that when Thiel introduced him to Vance, the two of them just became fast friends and spent 18 months, and I quote, just nerding out, feeling that, quote unquote, we should create something. They certainly did. They certainly did. And I'm telling you right now, today, what they created has suffered a major, major, major catastrophe with Orban losing. Because that something became the Rockbridge Network. It's not just another political group. It's a parallel infrastructure that links wealthy donors, church-based organizing, data operations, and media outlets into a single coordinated ecosystem. And it launched in 2019. It's called Rockbridge because they launched it outside of a tiny little town called Rockbridge, Ohio, with the goal of turning Trump's victory into a lasting political movement. And let me just tell you who was there at this meeting when it launched. It was Peter Thiel. It was Rebecca Mercer, who's a hedge fund heiress who basically has funded everything from Breitbart. I mean, she's like a toxin.
Yeah, she's horrendous.
Tucker Carlson, when he was still a Fox and had so much power, if you remember, he had like the #1 show, Fox, and had tremendous influence. Former Bain Capital executive who used to work for Mitt Romney and then went even more evil, named Orrin Cass, who several months later founded something called American Compass, which is a think tank that also focuses on what a post-Trump world is going to look like for the MAGA faithful. And just 3 years later, Thiel's network, Rockbridge Network, with the help of Mercer and Carlson, catapulted Vance into the Senate. And less than 2 years after that, of all the people Donald Trump could have chosen, all the people Donald Trump could have selected as his vice presidential nominee, he selected J.D. Vance, who had just been in office for less than 2 years, had barely won Ohio.
And never had a real job in his whole life.
And you have to wonder, what was that about? Because it's not like he needed to win Ohio. And it's not like he needed to get, the populist right to be on his side. He didn't. He's their avatar.
Mhm.
So you might wonder, what's that all about? Why Vance? Why Vance? And it's not like he needed somebody who he thought was going to be 100% loyal, and that person was J.D. Vance, because the reality is there's everybody in the Republican Party was going to fall in line after hanging Mike Pence of 2024, of 2020.
Yeah.
But and I want to also talk about this guy, Chris Buskirk, and I promise this has something to do, Michelle, with what we're talking about here. I promise it has something to do with what happened at Budapest, because it's all relevant, and I think nobody's connecting these dots, and I really want to connect these dots.
Yeah, let's. Yeah.
Yeah. Buskirk, this guy who's the central convener of this new MAGA elite, the guy who brings together the people and the money and the ideas. If Vance is the face, Buskirk is the system. Who is this guy?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy was a total loser. I don't know how else to say it. He didn't glide into the inner sanctum of MAGA power. He kind of stumbled there, the way most of these guys do, through a mix of hustle and reinvention and well-timed political opening. For years, and I mean 4 years, he and his wife were dogged by debt and lawsuits. There are more than a dozen between 2011 and 2015 alone, brought by every creditor, from business partners to collection agencies to even their dry cleaner. I mean, literally, the guy was being sued by his dry cleaner.
Right. Yeah.
And in most of those cases, he didn't even bother responding. So judgments were entered against them after they failed to respond. And then the most interesting part is what happened next. In 2019, the same year that Trump upended American politics, was the same year that Buskirk's fortunes changed. He co-founded something called the Center for American Greatness, which is a nonprofit behind the website American Greatness, which kind of quickly became the intellectual scaffolding, and I use the word intellectual very loosely, for Trumpism. And he didn't build it alone. The early funding came from Peter Thiel. I have no idea how he and Thiel discovered each other. I'm looking into it. But the reality is Peter Thiel once again plucked this complete loser like J.D. Vance.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, plucked Buskirk, like he tried to plug Blake Masters, and then basically helped turn American Greatness into more than just a passion project. And it became the launch pad for Buskirk's glide path into the heart of MAGA. By 2018, so 2 years later, this guy who was being sued by his dry cleaner, living in Arizona, I don't know who the hell he was, but nobody, right, had somehow secured access to the best real estate in journalism. He became a contributing op-ed writer at the New York Times. What? How? Are you kidding me? I've been trying to get an op-ed placed in the New York Times about the Me Too movement, as we talked about today, for years. Gretchen Carlson, who's no slouch, same. No, this loser becomes a contributing op-ed writer at the paper of record. And from that perch, he routinely promulgated pro-Trump talking points, including, and this is where it starts getting interesting, with respect to what's happening in Hungary today. And I'm getting there, I promise.
Somebody in the comments said you're doing a Rachel Maddow like A block.
I know, and I'm so sorry. Rachel Maddow's A blocks completely irritate me. I can't stand them. I'm like, you know what, Rachel Maddow, just send out a blog post and let us all read it. I know, I'm sorry, but I promise I don't ever do it, and that's like the biggest insult you can give me.
No, I know. I'm just joshing you.
I know, I can't, but I have to connect the dots here because it has to do with Hungary. I swear to God, it does. Okay, so I'm almost done. Actually, I lied. I'm not almost done here, but I promise we're getting there. All right. So he promulgated these pro-Trump talking points, including a very, 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 very strange fascination with attacking anyone who claimed that Russia had interfered in the 2016 election to help Trump. See where I'm going here? Getting there? So I'm going to skip over the part, unless people in the chat tell me they're deeply interested, although it is very interesting, about how just a few years later in 2022, Buskirk and Mercer and this investor named Omid Malik founded a venture capital firm called 1789 Capital, which is like the face of evil. We'll get to that later. In 2024, Donald Trump Jr. joined the firm as a partner. They have well over 1.5 billion in assets right now, where they're just investing in right-wing causes. Steve Witkoff's kids are involved. They started a social club in DC where they basically bring business people and lobbyists together with administration officials. Little sketch. Yeah. But we're going to skip over that part because we'll be here all night. Well, the part that is relevant to this is that Buskirk said something about the world that he's created. And I quote, "You either have an extractive elite, an oligarchy, or you have a productive elite, an aristocracy in every society. An aristocracy," he argues, "is good for the little people and should be considered, quote, a proper elite that takes care of the country and governs it well so that everyone prospers." Translation, I, the guy who could not afford to pay my dry cleaning bills a decade ago, am now going to tell you what is best for you, little people. Give me your money and I will govern in a very noblesse oblige way, noblesse oblige way, because I am an aristocrat.
Okay.
Yeah.
The confidence of mediocre white men always amazes me. Keep going.
Hey, I had a column in the New York Times. What's not to be confident about?
Oh my gosh,
the network. So, but I just want to, the reason I laid down this Rachel Maddow-esque predicate is it doesn't end in Washington or in Silicon Valley. It extends to Budapest and then to Moscow. Because Viktor Orban has spent years cultivating relationships with American conservatives, positioning Hungary as a model of what he called, and I quote, a liberal democracy. A liberal, not a liberal, right. Illiberal.
ILL, yeah.
Yeah, ILL, a system that, and what is that, right? It's a system that weakens independent institutions while maintaining the outward appearance of elections. The fact that he lost today means that it was way too big to steal. Like, he just couldn't, I mean, that 80% turnout and the vast majority of that 80% voted against him. Like, you can't steal that. Now, right. Let's see if tanks roll into Budapest the way they did for the Soviets in 1956.
Yeah.
And to export that model, and they exported it here, his government built institutions designed to connect with and influence Western and specifically American conservatives. The most important of those is something called the Matthias Corvinus Collegium, or MCC. It is not just a school, it is a hub funded and expanded by Orban's government to build intellectual and political bridges between Hungary and the American right. Buskirk is part of that orbit. He is listed as affiliated with MCC. I think he has a chair there, an endowment there, or he goes and teaches there or something. The connection between Buskirk, Vance, and Orban run through a network of Hungarian state-backed institutions that have been deliberately built to link Orban's government with American conservatives. Another one of them is a right-wing Hungarian think tank called the Danube Institute, which signed a cooperation agreement with the Heritage Foundation in 2023.
Of course.
Its Heritage was working on Project 2025. So if you want to know where the influence from Project 2025 was, it was from the Danube Institute through Orban, which is funded, friends, by the Russians. And remember I talked about this guy, Oren Cass, the guy who worked for Bain Capital for Romney back in the day, who then founded the project. He is one of Rockbridge's founders, and he contributed to Project 2025. See, dots connected.
Mm-hmm.
And the Danube Institute was founded by a foundation, the name of which I cannot even begin to pronounce in Hungarian, which acts as a pass-through for the Hungarian government. The Hungarian government is funded by Russian energy money. And within that framework, Buskirk is one of the American figures most closely tied to these institutions. And it's part of a broader circle of Trump-aligned operatives who have engaged with this MCC, the Danube Institute, and related organizations in Hungary. MCC has used its resources to host and fund trips, fellowships, and events for American conservatives, which is effectively a way to build a transatlantic network that connects Orban's political project to figures inside MAGA. And Vance represents the political apex of this network. He had a Hungary last week. We know that. And that is a reflection of a deeper integration between Orban's Hungary and a faction of MAGA led by Vance.
And I talked earlier before you came on as well, like the fact that there was a CPAC in Budapest and they had invited Viktor Orban to a CPAC in Texas. Like this was all out in the open, very much out in the open.
Yep.
And Heritage Foundation's pick, I mean, their choice that they were pushing was JD Vance.
Yeah. And I mean, think about the fact that the Russians just spent, I mean, there's evidence of this, which the Trump administration refuses to acknowledge, just gave the Iranians American troop positions in the Middle East. The Iranians used to send drones to bomb and kill and harm
Americans.
Okay. So this is the guy who JD Vance just campaigned for. The guy who's been those same Russians, Vladimir Putin's number one ally in Europe. Probably, I don't know about Europe, but probably anywhere in the world, aside possibly from the United States today. Orban's Hungary is deeply, deeply tied to Russian energy. And deeply allied with them on a whole host of issues, including Ukraine. Orban repeatedly delayed or diluted EU sanctions on Russia. He threatened vetoes in the EU over aid to Ukraine. He's maintained unusually close energy ties to Moscow, including long-term gas deals and support for the Russian-financed POX-2 nuclear project. Consistently became an outlier within the European Union, breaking consensus in ways that benefit the Kremlin's strategic goals. And last week or 2 weeks ago, we come to find out that the Hungarian foreign minister, Peter, if anybody here is Hungarian, I'm so sorry for that to say. I think Peter Zsijarto, maybe. It's got a lot of extra J's and Z's, has consistently notified the Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, who is the Antichrist, of confidential EU meetings. And Orban himself has effectively functioned as Moscow's mouthpiece within the EU. And Vance, of course, was, if you remember when he first became vice president, went to the Munich Security Conference and parroted Russian points. And basically said that the threat to Europe is not Russia, but the threat from within. Translation: the LGBTQ rights and the women's rights and immigration. Like, this guy's such an asshole. So, he's also argued, like Orban, repeatedly against support for Ukraine, saying, and I quote, "I don't really care what happens to Ukraine one way or the other."
Right.
Ultimately, what Vance and Orban and Putin all share is a commitment to illiberalism and to white Christian nationalism. And that's the post-Trump ideology that Thiel and Tucker Carlson, Rebecca Mercer, and others at the Rockbridge Network proposed during Trump's first term, when they were already looking beyond him towards a permanent reinvention of the American political ecosystem. And that's the infrastructure that they're building.
Yep.
And Orban is critical to this enterprise because he's living proof of the concept. Because while we here in this country have just begun this in the last decade, Orban has blazed a similar path in Hungary for decades. Consolidated media influence, look what Trump is doing now. Reshaped the courts, look what Trump is doing now. And institutions, look what Trump is doing now. Restricted immigration, ditto. And built a nationalist political system. Check, 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 and check.
Yep.
But for that system to be durable here in the United States, for it to serve as a model for the kind of permanent realignment that Rockbridge wants to accomplish here, it is imperative that Orban stay in power. And that, my friends, is the broken link today that happened.
Yep.
It's a long-term project that ran from Silicon Valley to Washington to Budapest to Moscow, and now the Budapest part of it is over.
Mhm. Yep, the link in the chain is gone.
So I apologize for the Rachel Maddow-esque annoying thing. I guess I could have just put my Substack.
No, but it's better to hear it, at least for me. Yeah.
But I just, that's why whenever anybody's like, why did JD Vance care so much about some random country in Central Europe enough to fly there
Yeah.
to campaign for a guy?
Mhm.
That's why.
What do you think's going on at the White House right now, thinking about this?
I mean, they probably knew it was coming. I think,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe they're going to say it was stolen. I don't know, or maybe they're not. They're probably a little swamped with. There's a lot of crises that they're making. You got to worry about now, right? Like they're about to take over the Strait of Hormuz, according to them.
Right. Well, because they were also just really busy at the UFC fight last night too.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
they got a lot going on.
I'm probably tired from the UFC fight. So, but I do want to say Vladimir Putin's having a really, really, really shitty day.
Oh yeah.
And the question is,
yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. No, I was going to say, just so people know, I'm looking at the results right here. There's 94.66% in, and Tiza party has 138 seats, which again, 133 was the magic number. So they're like far surpassed that, and in the supermajority. So just a heads up.
Oh wow, how many parties were running? I know Fidelis was the big one. That was the
Fidelis was a big one. It was Tiza, which is Najar, and then obviously Fidesz, which is Orban, and then I don't know, something else.
Oh wow!
It was like the super far right one. They're tiny, right? But they do have 7. They have 7 seats, so they're like super far right. So those were the 3 parties.
And what's the second one? Is it more liberal?
Tiza, well, Najar is center right. So
no, not the first one. The second one.
Fidesz, that's Orban.
No, Fidesz is Orban. Sorry, Fidesz came in second or came in third? You said there were
second.
4 parties.
Oh, no, second. three. Oh, yeah.
Well, I hope Orban doesn't hook up with the far right one to get a parliamentary majority. It's possible. I mean, interestingly, he has destroyed. It's very similar to Israel. He has destroyed any liberal wing of government now, right? There's the far right party, there's his far right party, and there's the center right party, right? There's no Green Party, there's no Labor Party. Very similar to Israel right now, which just shows how long these projects have been happening over the past decades. All over the world, right? And again, another example, Netanyahu comes in and endorses Orban. Trump comes in and endorses Orban. Vance flies to Budapest. Not just to Budapest, he went all over Hungary.
Oh yeah. And just FYI, even if he did hook up with the far right party and picked up those 7 seats, it would only bring them to. It wouldn't even get them close. It still would, like 133 still would be the magic number for Tiza. So like it wouldn't, I don't think it would have, so because there's 199 seats. So 2/3 of that is essentially 133. So
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's it's this link is breaking, and if you're somebody joining us today who's listening to us from Europe, like the fact, not Britain, because stupidly you guys pulled out of the EU, but if you are part of the European Union on the mainland of Europe, this is good news for you, because this guy was single-handedly blocking so much good stuff that you wanted to do.
Yeah, and I hope the EU uses this opportunity to reform that as well. The veto power situation. Like one country shouldn't be able to just stop everything. I mean, am I wrong here? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's their constitution, I guess the EU's constitution.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
did. I mean, he did.
Yeah.
So look, God bless. Like,
Yeah. I just hope that they're not like, oh, well, the problem's gone now, so we don't need to reform. Well, you know, he's not going anywhere, and who's to say another Orban's not going to pop up somewhere else? You know what I mean? So
no, he is. I mean, there are people in Slovakia who are right wing. There are people. It's really the former kind of. It's in Central and Eastern Europe where these rise, but not necessarily, because you've got elections coming up in France in the next year or two that are going to potentially, good possibility, really make France into something unrecognizable. There are elections happening, in Germany. They dodged a bullet, so it's
right.
God forbid, not that
the AFD party is gaining steam.
I mean, Britain's not part of the UK, is not part of the EU anymore, but you've got Nigel Farage who's
right.
Come potentially
who's aligned with like Elon Musk. Is Trump was
no. He is fully funded by Putin. It's beyond Elon Musk.
Yeah.
He is 100% a Russian asset.
So
so there are things to pay attention to, but let's take the win today, because it was
absolutely
a good night.
Yeah.
And let's see what happens next. I mean, Orban says he's going to stick around and try to, get back into power, maybe, or maybe he'll be on the first plane to Moscow. Who knows?
Right. I mean, and that's another thing that one of the women, when I was watching on some other channels with some European creators, were, excuse me, interviewing people, and one of the people that he interviewed, there was this woman. She was sitting on a bench, and she said, I just want to live in a free country. I just want healthcare. I just want this. And she goes, and the most important thing, she said, we need to see that there's accountability. Somebody needs, like, you can't just break all these laws and then move on. And I was like, wow, she could be speaking for us right now. I was like, this is the corruption is such a huge, huge piece of this. Like the Hungarian people, in addition to their healthcare crisis that they're having, to the pension crisis that they're having, is corruption. And they are sick and tired of suffering at the hands of the oligarchs in Hungary, very similarly to what is going on with the inequality here in the United States, except, we don't have access to affordable healthcare, but they have, like, quote unquote healthcare there that is just completely crumbled. They don't have anything, and they're being told what they can and cannot do. So, it's pretty dire. Yeah.
So it's I mean, there's a whole Christian nationalist component to this also, that I think is important.
Yep.
It's just we could talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But it's the grift is strong, and what they're effectively trying to do is that they're trying to use Trump. This is what Vance and Thiel and that whole crew is trying to do. Trump is like their useful idiot. They want to exploit Trumpism long after Trump shuffles this off this mortal coil. So what they're trying to do is use evangelicals to turn Trump into this Christ-like messianic figure. It's like L. Ron Hubbard, right? Like
exactly it.
Yeah. And so that these white nationalist aristocrats can keep his supporters' allegiance even after he's gone. Right?
Yep. 100%. They're going to turn him into like a deity,
That's what they're trying to do. I mean, that's why you've got Paula White, who's the Office of Faith, whatever the hell, this crazy grifter, evangelical
televangelist nut job.
I mean, grifter, you guys.
Yeah.
Grifter.
I feel like I legitimately feel bad for the people who don't know better and send her $5, $10, $20, their life savings. Like, leave it to people like her. I'll never understand it, but Good God.
I mean, listen, this wackadoodle doesn't just try to bastardize Christianity. She gets in on the act on Judaism too. On Yom Kippur, I want to say 2021, she decided to grift off the Day of Atonement by reminding her Christian followers that, and I quote, on Yom Kippur, just like the high priest in the temple in Jerusalem did, I'll take your offerings and needs before the Lord as a sweet savor, as the high priest of this ministry, believing for a release of his 7 blessings of atonement into your life. For your atonement offering of $2,500 or more, for these world changers God is speaking to right now, you will receive the entire package mentioned above, which I think was like a pair of candlesticks or something, plus my brand new series, A Pathway to His Presence, in a limited edition engraved mahogany case for your digital library. It is absolutely beautiful. Click here to give your atonement offering of $2,500 or more.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
I don't know how people believe this shit. It's just cuckoo to me.
I mean, but that's my point, right? Like, it's she promised to send donors a Waterford crystal cross for a Passover/Easter resurrection offering of $1,000 or more. Passover, Easter, resurrection offering, like,
That's like what? Huh?
well, my
What
point is
that?
she constantly talks about how Trump, and this is
Right.
why, she constantly talks about how Trump is
Is Jesus, essentially.
basically. She's, at an Easter event a couple of weeks ago, the Wednesday of Holy Week, she spoke at a White House event, I think, and she spoke about betrayal, persecution, and sacrifice, and suggested that Trump had, quote unquote, paid the price, echoing a central narrative of Christianity.
Listen, when he dies, which he will sooner rather than later, because, I mean, have you seen him? There will be a whole swath of people that are be like, Donald Trump died for you.
For your sin.
Died for your sin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He died for you.
She said to Trump during Holy Week, Jesus taught so many lessons through his death, burial, and resurrection. He showed us great leadership, great transformation requires sacrifice. And Mr. President, no one has paid the price like you have paid the price. It almost cost you your life. You were, this is the key, you were betrayed and arrested and falsely accused. It's a familiar pattern that our Lord and Savior showed us. What? During Holy Week, right? She didn't choose
right. She didn't choose some random Tuesday, right?
Yeah. And then in turn, Trump, of course, didn't dispute any of these parallels between him and Jesus, because of course,
no, he's like, I am a victim. Thank you.
He said at the same event, and again, this goes back to Orban. I promise I'll get there. He said, on Palm Sunday, Jesus entered Jerusalem as crowds welcomed him with praise, honoring him as king. They call me king now. Can you believe it? No, actually,
no,
I can't believe it.
You can't.
No. He's cast himself as a messianic figure. I was saved by God to make America great again, he said about Butler, Pennsylvania. It's not the first time White has compared Trump to the Almighty. He once claimed that his White House is holy ground and said that to say no to President Trump would be to say no to God. Why is this relevant to Viktor Orban and the Rockbridge Network? Well, because like the Rockbridge Network, for people who want to exploit Trumpism long after Trump dies, nothing is more potent than turning Trump into a Christ-like figure.
Yep.
Right? Because if a humble carpenter from the Galilee has suddenly become the avatar for the prosperity gospel, where people grift off of the Day of Atonement,
right,
to send me $2,500 and I'll send you a pair of of candlesticks. Why can't Trump be turned into an avatar to benefit the billionaires who want to use him for their own prosperity and power, especially after he is gone? And that is what Peter Thiel and the Rockbridge Network is doing. And that is what Vladimir Putin, I guarantee you, these Russian bots, the minute that Trump is dead, are going to start massive influx on social media to mirror this message. And that is how they are going to try to rebuild this crazy white Christian nationalist echo chamber that is transnational, which suffered a humongous defeat in Budapest today.
Yep. I know that there's a lot of, tough roads ahead, but today really was such a victory for the rest of us. And, I'm watching this footage here of the stage where Peter Najjar just finished speaking, and there's a crowd of thousands and thousands of people there to listen to him speak. And it's just, it's incredible. It is incredible to see. I can't imagine the relief that these people are feeling.
And Docent Cat made a great point in the chat. They made a golden statue, golden calf shit, 100%. Like,
yep.
Read your Exodus, friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And Timothy also brought up a good point. Our friend Timothy in the chat, that Sean Hannity, I don't know if you saw this, because we're bring it to the Catholic Church here too, and Opus Dei and all of that, right? The right wing of the Catholic Church has been squashed, especially by this Pope. And Sean Hannity last night on Fox News started to criticize the Pope and asked if the Pope had ever read the Bible.
Because Sean Hannity apparently is a better Catholic scholar than the Pope.
Yeah, Sean Hannity, and not that there's anything wrong with this, I just want to be very clear there, didn't finish college, and you're seriously going to ask the Pope, who's a brilliant man also, very smart, kind, if he's read the Bible?
Well, I can think of, because I know Sean Hannity.
Yeah, I know you do.
I can think of several commandments that Sean Hannity has broken. I don't know if Sean Hannity and his Bible reading evangelical fiance want to come clean about when that relationship began, but anyway. So
yeah. Well, Julie, I'm so glad that you were able to join us. Yeah, no, this is great. For anybody else, it's Sunday evening. A couple people in the chat had asked me what I felt about the Masters. Last I checked, Rory McIlroy's up 2 strokes. He choked yesterday and blew a 6-stroke lead, which was awful. But we're always rooting for Rory McIlroy because he doesn't like Trump and he hates live golf, and working class kid from Ireland. We love him. Yep. And also just a note for anybody who watched The Handmaid's Tale, the Testaments, which is the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, is out on Hulu, and it is fantastic, guys. Like, I was skeptical, but they released the first 3 episodes. It is so good. June makes an appearance as well. She's part of the storyline, so definitely check it out. It's really, really good. Julie, any other parting words?
No, other than thank you to everybody for bearing with me while I completely whiffed. I just checked my phone. That's why I was looking down. I saw a bunch of missed calls from Michelle. I was like, uh-oh. You probably try to raise me from the dead while I was totally asleep.
I was like, maybe she didn't hear it. I was like, yeah. I'll let it, maybe it's on buzz and she'll feel the buzz.
No. You could totally stalk me anytime, day or night. I just completely, as I said, I was up till 5 a.m. writing the Substack post. So
and just an FYI to people are asking what the name of the show is. It's called The Testaments. And did Margaret Atwood contribute to that? She did. There was the book first before the show. And she helped develop that with Bruce Miller, who was the showrunner for Handmaid's Tale. So it was a collaborative effort to make this. And this occurs several years later, and it's Hannah as a teenager. So anyways, keep going.
And other than that, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for letting me go off on my Rachel Maddow tangent.
No, not a tangent. We all learn from Julie. We love it. And if you haven't already, please go to Julie's Substack, Salty Politics, and read her post today. It's quite harrowing. So and she was up till 5 a.m. writing it, which is why she was asleep today. So
yeah,
go check it out.
The problem is, Michelle, I normally would not be up till 5 a.m. writing it, but it was a very personal Substack post.
Mhm.
And it's not that I was up till 5 a.m. writing it. I wrote it. I didn't rewrite it, but I obviously went back and tweaked it. That's what I always do. I write and then I spend hours
Sure.
proofing and tweaking, whatever. And then it's just, it describes a very kind of dark moment period of my life. So that I had a hard time going to sleep because then you start going down rabbit holes and ruminating.
Oh, yeah.
You know it. You know it. So
Mhm.
I think that's what that was all about. So if you are interested in a little Julie history and how it relates to Eric Swalwell, check it out. I just to be clear, I don't have personal dirt on Eric Swalwell, so it's not about me and Eric Swalwell, but why Democrats need to live their values is, I guess, my point.
Mhm.
And that's it. Okay, everybody, great to see you. We will be back as news develops. We'll definitely be back tomorrow. And I guess I could thank you, Tree. I could try to go back to my well-deserved nap, but then I feel like I'll be up till 5 a.m. again.
Well, you might not sleep tonight, so try to stay up. Yeah.
All right, guys. I'll see you later. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.